Greetings, gaming citizens. Mike here. The Switch 2 has had a bit of a rocky start to its commercial life, and this was further highlighted in the Direct from earlier this month. In general, it feels like Nintendo has been seeing a significant negative reaction to its recent announcements, so I wanted to dive into the Direct to try and answer the question, has Nintendo lost the plot? What do I mean by that? Well, sit back and let me take you through the September Direct because we have a lot to talk about. Before we get started, I want to state that I only decided to make this video now because I wanted to give ample time for the dust to settle, given how controversial some of these announcements were, and in general, give myself time to formulate an opinion that wasn't purely reactionary for the sake of content. Plus, my direct reaction got a single dislike on YouTube, so naturally, I have to go into crisis mode to protect my image as a niche internet micro-celebrity. I'm sorry for letting you down, internet citizen. Also, I like to think I bring a perspective that's slightly different from most Nintendo YouTubers, as I do not own a Switch 2, and don't plan to buy one in the immediate future, so I have no reason to be biased in favor of the shiny new thing. Alright, first, let's get into what the expectation of this Direct was. While we did have a partner showcase on July 31st, this was the first proper Direct to release after the launch of the Switch 2. As such, the general expectation was to provide reasons for people to purchase a Switch 2, while also making sure Switch 1 owners were not completely left out. I'll highlight the first-party stuff in a moment, but looking at the Direct at face value, it feels like Switch 1 owners had slightly more titles to look forward to compared to Switch 2 exclusive announcements, which definitely isn't bad at a glance. In total, there were 43 titles in the Direct, if you count absolutely everything, expansions, yada yada yada. Out of all of those, 23 are accessible with all their content on Switch 1, whether it's directly or by way of having a version specifically made for Switch 1. For example, Pokemon Legends EA having a Switch 2 edition, but it's also available on Switch 1, and it's exactly the same game. Mario Wonder is an outlier, though, because it does require the Switch 2 to get access to the new levels and multiplayer features, but the base game is still on Switch 1. I'll reiterate this at the end of the video, but the timing of these announcements is more crucial than ever, since economic factors, that's how we'll put it, are making us more cautious of what games to purchase, given our lower buying power. Unfortunately, the choices made by Nintendo that were shown in this Direct demonstrate, in my opinion, a disconnect in consumer habits. I've dragged on for long enough, though. Let's start with the actual announcements themselves. Of course, we had to start with Mario's 40th. To celebrate 40 years of the lovable red-clad Italian, Nintendo is re-releasing Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 with graphical enhancements and a small handful of features, including new pages in Rosalina's storybook. Sounds nice, right? Well, it f***ing better, because you're paying $70 for the bundle, sucker! Don't worry though, if you already played Galaxy 1 via 3D All-Stars, you can just buy Galaxy 2 on its own for $40. This is absurd pricing for a slight graphical improvement and some negligible features like stick control and in-game lore pages. Considering how the Galaxy games used to be $20 on the Wii U Virtual Console, this is just straight up robbery. Back in my day, $40 was enough for a complete Nintendo DS game. Now I'm 25 and my fucking bones are creaking. Jokes aside, I've got several questions about this decision. First off, why are we adding more pages to Rosalina's storybook? What lore could possibly have sprung up in the 18 years since Galaxy came out?
Oh shit, Luigi's adopted.
Nintendo also announced that a physical version of Rosalina's storybook would be released as well, which is neat, I gotta admit, until you realize that they don't include the new pages that they just announced for the remaster of Galaxy. If you're going to go through the effort of making new pages for the storybook in the game, why would you then just leave them at the physical version of the same book? It genuinely makes zero sense to me as why they chose to do this. Just when it couldn't get any worse, they announced amiibo figures to release alongside Galaxy. And that on its own is fine. I thought these were cool, so I considered buying them. That was until I realized they were $40. And what do you get for that $40? A f***ing one-up mushroom. The Toad on Starship Mario in Galaxy 2 gives more one-ups than the physical $40 figure. Let that sink in. Look, I love the Galaxy games. They were some of the best games I ever played as a kid, but not in a pay $40 for a functionally pointless mini statue type of way. And it's a shame too, because these amiibo look amazing, but I can't buy these in good conscience. It's just too much money. The other Mario 40th announcements include the title reveal for the next Mario movie, which goes hand in hand with the Galaxy games being re-released, so I guess the timing does make sense here. There's also a Switch 2 edition of Mario Wonder coming that adds more levels and multiplayer content, which is neat. Then we end off on a cute little Yoshi game. I wanted to be excited about Mario's 40th, but the Galaxy stuff just left a bad taste in my mouth. I can't help but feel a tad worried about what Zelda's 40th will look like next year, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Moving on, Nintendo announced that Virtual Boy would come to Nintendo Switch Online. I didn't exactly care much about this announcement until they announced that you were required to buy a replica Virtual Boy accessory to play the games. The best part, this mandatory accessory that lets you play 14 games will run you $100. But don't worry, if you don't want to spend that kind of money right now, Nintendo has allowed you to buy a Virtual Boy made out of the unsold Labo inventory for just $25. This got me incredibly frustrated. None of the other services required an accessory purchase to play the games. So why is it the case for this one? Because the games are in 3D? Last I checked, you could play 3DS games without using the 3D slider, so I don't see why these games couldn't work on a regular screen too. Sure, it's a more authentic experience to use the funny commercial failure vision, but it just baffles me that these games are essentially locked behind a paywall in addition to a monthly subscription. Also, just thinking about it from a business perspective, reselling the Virtual Boy in 2025 makes no sense to me. It was a commercial failure because people got motion sickness from prolonged use and suffered from neck pain when attempting to use it while it was mounted on the stand it came with. This re-release of the exact same system is just going to bring back those exact problems, which sounds like a recipe for disaster. I'm going to leave this section of the video with just one question. How will the Switch 2 even be able to detect the accessories in use? How can Nintendo verify that the Switch 2 is placed into a Virtual Boy Labo? Genuinely, I am curious. This is not like sarcasm or a dig. I genuinely wonder how that will functionally work. Pokopia. It looks fun and I want it, but I also think Concerned Ape can do the funniest thing right now and file a game design patent on maintaining a farm in a grid-like space so Stardew Valley can claim Pokemon is copying them and sue in light of recent events. Dubious legal advice aside, though, Pokopia genuinely looks like a fun time. I'm not exactly a farming sim person, but I'm absolutely willing to give this game a go. The idea of utilizing Pokemon mechanics to expand a farm into a town sounds like it could be pretty fun and a little unique at the very least, so this game definitely has my attention. Also, this game is being developed by Koei Tecmo, whose last Pokemon game was Conquest, so I am once again asking for Conquest to be brought back now that they are working together again. Speaking of Pokemon, Legends ZA got another trailer, this time showing off Mega Evolutions for the Kalos starters. I was already somewhat interested in ZA, so this didn't really move the needle for me, but what got my attention was the announcement of the DLC expansion Mega Dimension, which features 2 new Mega Evolutions for Raichu. You might be wondering, what's in that DLC? How will Hoopa be involved in all of this? Those are valid questions. Too bad Nintendo didn't feel like answering them. You gotta pay 30 bones to figure that out. I shouldn't have to explain why it's fucked up to not only announce DLC for a game that isn't even out yet, but to both not show anything about said DLC and allow people to pre-order it. Historically, the Pokemon Company has announced DLC for its mainline titles at least 2 to 3 months after the game comes out, usually opting to announce said DLC in a Pokemon Presents. So why didn't they do that for this game? Obviously, they know this game will sell pretty well, so they are likely just confident that people will throw money at the DLC, regardless of how good the game actually is. It just feels very messed up that they are allowing people to buy DLC for a game that hasn't released, and are doing so without even showing us what to expect in said DLC. I really hope we get more details on Mega Dimension. I'm sure it'll be good, or at the very least, decent, but it's hard to say when we have nothing to go by. Tomodachi Life. This game looks so unserious. Every time I see a trailer for this game, I think I'm just straight up tweaking or something. But you know what is serious? The amiibo for Kirby Air Riders. Basically, these amiibo let you swap the character and vehicles around, and it'll reflect that in the game for the CPU that you train. This is such a cool concept. It's like an evolution of the amiibo training in Super Smash Bros. But then the price tag of $50 starts to look not so cool. And we get yet another case of genuine robbery with pricing. Unlike the Mario Galaxy figures, at least these are practical in the sense that you can train an AI in the game, and they're swappable, which would make it fun to collect multiple of them. But when you consider that to just have 2 sets of amiibo to swap around, plus the price of the game, you are dropping $170 on all this Kirby Air Rider stuff. You know what game offers all of those features for a fraction of the price with the same figure functionality? F***ing Starlink. No disrespect to Masahiro Sakurai, because I am sure this will be a fantastic game. But unlike Kirby on a Warp Star, this shit does not fly with me, dude. One thing that did fly well with me was the new look at Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. I saw quite a few people react to this new trailer and cast down on how the game looked, most notably in the desert segment where Samus was on a motorbike. While I get how it can be a bit jarring compared to other Metroid Prime games that felt more, I guess, like a closed space instead of semi-open world like this trailer would suggest, I think this type of experimentation makes sense for Metroid Prime, and it can be relatively harmless. Now, if we could just get 2 and 3 remastered for Nintendo Switch, that would be pretty awesome, since I loved the first game. At this point, I'm just glad we're getting Metroid Prime 4 after such a long time at all. I hope the devs at Retro Studios can sleep well at night knowing their work is finally done on this title.
You can rest now.
Donkey Kong Bonanza made an appearance to show off some DLC called Emerald Rush. It seems like a fun little thing to do after finishing the main story, but shocker, the issue I have is with the $20 price tag. $20 for nostalgia bait, thanks to the inclusion of DK Island, all to accompany a shallow side mode that is a soft roguelike where you just smash a bunch of emeralds instead of bananium gems like you do in the regular game. As an outsider looking in, I do not see the value here. This seems somewhat overpriced for the little content you actually get. I don't want to say much more because, like I said earlier, I do not own a Switch 2, so I have not been able to explore this mode and play the actual game and have a more informed outlook. If you bought the DLC and have thoughts on that, feel free to let me know down below. The Direct finally ended on a new Fire Emblem, which does the thing I don't like where it's mostly cinematics and pretty much no gameplay. Yes, they did show a bit of the combat, but I think everyone wanted to know what to expect from the story beyond the heroic games taking place. Was this game going in a three houses direction with emphasis on social interactions and building connections with the characters? I would ask if this game was going to lean heavily into nostalgic characters like Engage did, but it seems like this is a brand new cast of characters, so it probably isn't really going in that direction at all. Either way, the new Fire Emblem looks good, but I wish we got more information about it. After watching this direct and sitting on my thoughts about it for a while, I've come to wonder, has Nintendo lost the plot? It feels like they are becoming increasingly out of touch with how much spending power, or how little spending power, the average fan has in the US. We have very basic remasters going for far more money than they were on previous storefronts, and accessories that serve little purpose going for nearly the same amount as a full game. Not only that, but the price of Switch 2 Edition enhancements feels like they're charging more for less. It's like a restaurant increasing their prices, but shrinking their portions. It's not good for anyone except for the person counting the money. Considering we haven't even hit 6 months post-launch and we're already seeing these kinds of problems spring up, Nintendo needs to course correct if they want the Switch 2 to maintain the performance and longevity that the original system did for those long 8 years. It's safe to say the purpose of this direct was to provide value to existing Switch 2 owners, while also bringing in new system buyers or people looking to upgrade, but needed just that one game to be a system seller for them. Conversely, however, Nintendo also had the responsibility of not completely leaving Switch 1 owners in the dust, because of factors including not wanting to upgrade because they aren't completely sold on the Switch 2, or being unable to afford the Switch 2 due to weaker spending power thanks to economic changes in the US. After sitting on this direct for a couple of weeks, I think there were some neat announcements that were plagued with questionable financial decisions. I was going to end the video there, but I just got word when I was finishing up the script for this video that Nintendo of America will have a new president and CEO starting next year. I bring this up because I think there is still room for Nintendo to turn things around. Now, first understand that Nintendo of America effectively just follows orders given to them by HQ in Japan. They very rarely have influence on major corporate decisions, with a few obvious exceptions like what happened with Wii Sports becoming a pack-in title. However, having said that, I firmly believe we are early enough in the Switch 2's life cycle for Nintendo to improve on maintaining and managing concerns regarding the US audience. I want to support the Switch 2 and its games, but at these price points, it's just difficult to do that. At least with the Switch 1, there was less of a question on value for the price compared to today. I don't want to say it felt like the company cared more about its customers then, because let's face it, companies just want to make a profit at the end of the day. That's just how it works. But you have to admit that the Nintendo we see today feels very different from the Nintendo in 2017. But I want to hear your thoughts. What are your thoughts on the direction Nintendo is taking with the Switch 2 so far? Do you feel priced out of a lot of the newer stuff coming out? Do you agree or disagree that they've lost their touch when it comes to dictating proper pricing for the content you receive in your games? I want to hear all of your thoughts in the comments down below, because I suspect I'm not the only one that's considering this dilemma. That's going to be it for me. Stay vibing and thriving, everyone, and I will see you in the next one.